Hi there YouTube, Caitlin here, and this is the first part of a two-part video on how to make a seitan cutlet. So first up, you're going to need to get your hands on some wheat gluten flour. That's the protein component from flour separated out. Now obviously if you have celiac disease or some kind of gluten insensitivity, you don't want to eat this stuff. But for everyone else, this should be totally fine. And it's a commonly used meat substitute in, for example, if you go to a Chinese vegetarian restaurant. So we are going to measure out the main ingredient for a recipe, a cup in total of wheat gluten flour. And to this we are also going to want to add a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. That'll give it a nice savory taste and it'll help make it a bit more meaty in terms of flavor profile. We are also going to want to add a little bit of garlic powder. This is maybe somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 teaspoon. I'm also going to add some onion powder. This is maybe 1/2 teaspoon. Adding some cumin, about the same amount of cumin as garlic powder, as well as a tiny little bit of smoked paprika, maybe 1/4 teaspoon. We're just going to measure mix the seasonings and the dry ingredients together. That way it'll be evenly combined before we add the wet ingredients. Right, once that's mixed together, we will just give it another mix, I guess, and then we'll set this aside while we prepare our wet ingredients. So in a blender, we want to mix together 1 cup of vegetable broth. In this case, I'm using mushroom broth, the same stuff I used before in that ground beef replacement video, because it does have a bit of a meatier flavor than other vegetable broths do. That's the bulk of our liquid ingredients. We're also going to want to measure out just slightly under a 1/4 cup of soy sauce and add that as well. I'm also adding in a few dashes of liquid smoke, a couple spoonfuls of tomato sauce or ketchup. I'm actually using homemade ketchup here. You could also use a tablespoon of tomato paste as well instead of 2 spoonfuls of tomato sauce. And 1/2 cup of navy beans. The reason I'm adding that is because wheat protein is not a complete protein by itself. You do need to combine it with the legume to create a complete protein. This will also help make the texture a bit more moist and a little less rubbery. So once we've blended all those liquid ingredients together, we're going to add little by little to the dry ingredients, mixing as we go. We want a mixture that will hold together and incorporate all of the dry ingredients. We also don't want something that's mushy, and we want it to hold together and not stick to our hands. So I found this was actually a little too wet when I was working with it. So kind of like when you're working with any dough, if you find it's a little too wet, just sprinkle a little bit more flour. In this case, a little bit more of the gluten flour will be added here. So just knead that in, and once you've got it to think about the right consistency, just turn that out onto a counter that's been dusted with a little bit of the gluten flour and knead it for about 2 to 5 minutes. And then once you've done that, you're going to want to break it off into 4 roughly equal pieces, and then you're going to want to kind of squish and stretch those pieces out into cutlets. So think kind of like chicken breast shape. Bear in mind that these will expand as they're cooking. So they look a little small now, but they won't be quite so small after they're done. So once we've shaped them, we're going to want to let them rest covered for about 10 minutes while we work on the braising liquid, or the poaching liquid, I guess it would be. Okay, so we're going to need a pot large enough to hold all of the cutlets and keep them submerged. So to this pot we're going to add some water. I didn't really measure it out, we just need enough that it's going to completely cover all of them. little bit more water here, I think. Alright, so we're going to want to add a little splash of soy sauce, maybe a splash or two. We are also going to add a few dashes of that liquid smoke. I'm adding about 1/4 of an onion. I'm not even really chopping it up. It's going to cook and infuse in the water anyways. As well, a couple of garlic cloves that I just kind of cut in half. At this point, I'll admit I had some problems with the camera, so I missed a couple steps being filmed. I added a bay leaf, as well I added a couple spoonfuls of some bouillon concentrate to complete the flavor profile. So we're going to bring this up to a simmer, and once it's simmering, we're going to want to add our cutlets. And yes, I did leave the onion skin in there, but that I knew it was in there. It does add a nice color to the broth. Don't worry, you're not going to eat it. So just add all of your cutlets into the hot liquid and give it a stir. We just want to make sure that none of the cutlets are sticking to themselves or sticking to the bottom. So we're going to put the lid on and not quite completely cover it because we do want it to vent, and we're going to leave that on low heat to simmer for about an hour. So once they're done, you'll see that they have expanded. They are bigger than they were when we put them in the first place. So to store these for later, I'm going to show you the recipe tomorrow. We are going to want to fish these out of the broth. We'll put them in a container and we'll pour the broth over top of them to just kind of barely cover them to store them. Now, don't be put off by the slight jiggliness they've got going on here. This is not actually the finished product. This is actually just making the base material that you'll use later for other recipes. So once they get a nice sear on the outside, a nice little crust, they will have a much more meaty texture than they look like they have right now. So that's all there is for part 1. This is just making the base seitan. Tomorrow I will show you what I did with these for supper. So please be sure to suggest anything else you want me to try making in the comments. A thumbs up if you like this video, and be sure to subscribe to continue to see other things I make. See ya!